Okay, good morning. So we're up to Siman Shin Vov. Mr. today we'll do Dalad and Hey, very interesting halachas about Schar Shabbos. That there is a prohibition not to get paid for work on for Shabbos work. So we'll have to talk. We'll talk about how to deal with that in terms of a person who's employed to do various works on Shabbos, and that could be in Yonei Avodas HaKodesh, for example, a Chazan and things like that. So let's go through the Mechaba. Hasoiche es hapoel. So Shin Vov Siif Dalet. Hasoiche es hapoel. If someone hires a worker, lishmer zeroim, to look after his produce, or yidova acher or something else, ein noisin lo schar Shabbos. You can't pay him for work done on Shabbos. Lefichach ein achrayes Shabbos olov. And therefore, since Shabbos is not included in the work arrangement, he is not liable for any losses incurred on Shabbos. However, schir Shabbos, schir chodesh, if he was employed for a week or for a month, schir shana for a year, or schir shavua for 7 years, noisin lo schar Shabbos, then you can pay him for work done over Shabbos, lefichach achrayes Shabbos olov, and therefore he will be liable for any losses incurred on Shabbos because it was under his employment that something may have happened. Okay, let's do the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Kotten Tezvov, Hasoicher es hapoel. Someone who hired a worker, you hired him for days on a daily rate. For a daily rate, whatever it is, per day you give certain amounts. And he did shmira, he looked after things even on Shabbos. And he says, you don't have to pay me, for work done on Shabbos. Even if the fellow, the boss, wants to give you, the socher shouldn't take the payment. Unless the fellow is giving it to him as a present. All of this, there's no Issa Torah, but it's a Gezer Drabonon because of you might come to do business, which involves other Isra Deraisa. And therefore, if a person is employed, he shouldn't get employed for Shabbos itself, and therefore, he's not paying him for Shabbos for the work done on Shabbos, and therefore, in Achrei Shabbos Olov, he's not liable for any losses incurred on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yuzayin, Shim Ira Bohen Kilkul B'Shabbos Ein Chayav L'Shalim, because I'm not working on that day. However, if you're paying him for a week or a month or a year or something like that, then you are liable. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yudches Schir Shabbos Hainu Shel Kol HaShavua B'Yachad. You get paid a certain amount per week. And therefore, Shabbos, included in that is the Shchar Shabbos. Even if he sort of leaves halfway through the contract, you don't have to deduct the Shchar Shabbos. It's sort of swallowed up, it's included with the rest of the payments. That's why the Mechaba concludes and says, later in the Siman, in the Sif, that he says, pay me for 10 days' work. That means he sort of pulled out in the middle of the second week, and therefore he says, pay me for 10 days. And therefore he is working on Shabbos. And therefore, if something happens, he's liable to pay. Even if there wasn't some sort of loss that happened, but he didn't work on Shabbos, he's allowed to deduct that from his payment. Because it's as if he didn't work for one day. Okay, so again, you shouldn't get paid for work done on Shabbos, but if it's B'Havlah, that means it's subsumed in a larger period of work. That would be okay. So let's continue. Says that we're up to the second line from the bottom. For lo yom eloi tenli shel Shabbos. You can't say pay me for the Shabbos work. Eloi tenli schar shavua chodesh. Pay me for the month or for the week. Ve'im schar lechodesh. And if you pay the agreement is for a month. Ve'hisn imo l'shalem lo kol yom. And it's on a daily basis. Kach v'kach. It's a certain amount per day. Mikri schir yom. Once it's broken down into days and you're getting a certain amount per day, that's not really considered a monthly payment. Or he says, just pay me for 10 days, that would be okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Yutes, L'Shalim Loi Kol Yom, Hainu Shehisne Imosh B'Shalim Loi Lefi Cheshbon HaYomim. You pay him for the amount of days that you did. V'alosh Nazeh Meire Sheyuchel HaBalabayis Lachzor Be'emsa HaShavua. That this indicates that he can back out in the middle of the week. You don't have to pay for the whole week, only for the days where he actually worked. And therefore, this worker is called a schir yom, and therefore you can't pay him for the Shabbos work that he did. Even if he pays the whole month in one go, if you rent a room for a month, and you let out this property for a month, and you do on a daily basis, and you agree with him, you pay such and such an amount per day. Because each payment is attributed to the day, or £10 a day, or whatever it is. So too, if you lend money to a non-Jewish person for a year, for a month, you can't say pay me interest on a daily basis, because included in that would be Schar Shabbos. You're getting paid for lending him money, and on Shabbos is a specific day. Well, we'll see in the notes in a second. Moshe's got a famous truth about this. Because whenever he wants, he can pay. And even if he sort of pays him the interest in the middle of the week, it's being calculated according to the days. And therefore it turns out that each day is considered a separate thing. You should deduct the interest that you received for the Shabbos part of the arrangement. You're paying interest for the week. I'm lending you £100, £1,000, £1 million, whatever it is, and I'm paying, and that's the weekly interest. Or just don't pay for the last week. Okay, so let's just jump to this interesting, that's the Moshe you're talking about. If you look at number 15, he says, Inyan ribis yomis shemekabli mea bankim. So what about ribis, the interest you get from a savings account, a deposit account? Because they're paying you interest for for a larger period of time, and therefore the Shabbos part of it is subsumed in that interest that you're getting. Why? The way it works in the in the banking or in the financial world is the daily rate is from a specific time, either morning to morning, or mitzaram mitzarayim, or michatz laila atchatzos laila. I think that's how it normally works. That from what is today? Today is it's Tuesday, the 11th of February, right? So that means you'll get paid from midnight last night until midnight tonight. So nechshav hadavar kavlo shal Shabbos im schar hachol. So therefore, if you're getting paid for Saturday, the whatever it is, then you're getting paid for a bit of chol and a bit of Shabbos, and therefore it's muvla and so on Friday. Maybe a bit of Friday night is included in it, but it's all muvla in a bit of chol. And the Mishnah Berurah is talking about a case where your arrangement is that you're being paid interest from evening till evening, and therefore Shabbos is considered the standalone day, and it's dafka Shabbos and no chol included. Now you're going to have one problem. What's the problem? When Yontif, let's say, falls on a Sunday, on a Friday, Kosev b'shar shu zigus Moshe, v'chein b'shar shu minzchas Yitzchak, b'shem Agon Rabbi Yosef Plau, I think, shelo yoyel heter zeh, this heter doesn't help you. Shahari yeshno yemama shleima she'osa litzal aleh eschar. You got 24-hour period, which is all osa, i.e. the Saturday itself, because the Motzei Shabbos is Yontif. V'alkein kosev b'shar shu zigus Moshe, sheyitin is temei ha'ribis shel oise yomma. You should try and work out that ribbis of that Shabbos, when Yom Tov falls on either before or after Shabbos, try and calculate the interest you received on that Shabbos itself and give that tzedakah. B'ofen shelo yodu shu hanoisin kadei shelo yikabel shum hano hakaras tovim mimoyes shel schar Shabbos. Okay, if you jump to the next thing, if you just jump to the next paragraph, beginning of the first sentence, the first word on the line is va'af legabe shehir bebeis malon b'Shabbos. What if you stay in a Jewish hotel on Shabbos? Kasher hanoeg lahagia zman ma lifnei knisas Shabbos v'chein ish zman ma v'motzei Shabbos. So if you arrive just before Shabbos and you leave straight after Shabbos, kosav b'shad shuvas ha'elef l'shleima shemuta, that's okay. Why? You're living a you're coming a little bit before Shabbos. You're leaving a little bit after Shabbos. Inevitably, there's going to be some chol included in it, and therefore that would be the same svara. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Kotzen Chof Mikri Schir Yom Over Sefer Shvus Yaakov Chelek. He argues with Sfirle. The Maharan ein raya ledin Meharan ein raya ledin zeh. The Mechaber, the Ramah is quoting a Ran and says the Shvus Yaakov, but there's not a raya from the Ran. To be in Yonenu af shelafi dvarav yuchel lachzor l'salka b'emtza shvua. True, you can back out of this arrangement in the middle of the week, and that makes it a daily arrangement. Mikol makom mistama lo yachzor boy be'emtza v'avischir chodesh. Surely it will just become like a monthly arrangement, and therefore the Schar Shabbos will be included by Havlah, and it will be mutter. And therefore they question this strict ruling, let's say, of the Ramah. Okay, or the Mechaber concluded, pay me for 10 days. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Mashenagim hasoichrim liskar Yehudi be'erev Shabbos lishmer ha'agolos min hagneva. You hire a non-Jewish person. You hire a Jewish person on erev Shabbos just to keep an eye on the agola. Hadova kasha. How can you hire a person to do work on Shabbos? You're over lifnei iver, because not only are you paying him for this, you're being over lifnei iver by making another Jew receive Schar Shabbos, because he's happily going to take it. To look after the wagon a little bit before and after Shabbos. And the same is true with babysitting. If you with babysitter, which is a very motzu shaila, that you come around on a Friday night to babysit, let's say, for a couple of hours. So how are you going to deal with that? So ideally, you should try and have an arrangement that you also babysit there a bit during the week, and then this week I babysat on Wednesday night, I babysat on Friday night. Give me £20 for the week, and that way you've got the havlah arrangement. That's the best thing to do, to try and involve some sort of weekday into the arrangement. Okay, now Sif Hey, this involves the Chazan. So what's the Chazan going to do? He gets paid to work on Shabbos, and so to the Rabbi and other Klei Kodesh. So what's the halacha? So says the Mechaber, also lischar chazonim lispal b'Shabbos. You can't hire a Chazan to work on Shabbos, to daven. V'yesh mi shematir, and there are those who are matir. Says the Ramah, im schorei l'shana l'chodesh l'kula al mashari. But if you hire him for the year or for the month, then it's b'havla, and therefore there's no problem. So the problem is when you hire him dafka for the Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chof Beis, Lispal b'Shabbos mishum shenoitel schar Shabbos, because he's getting schar for work on Shabbos, which is caught by this. V'yesh mishematir, and there are those who are matir. Now the lenient view, what's that based on? Says the Mishnah Berurah Chof Gimel Sfir Lei, to b'mokum mitzvah lo gozru rabon l'schar Shabbos b'zeh. But mokum mitzvah such as a chazal will never go there, because remember the whole issa over here is mishum mekach memka. There's no issa to take money for work done on Shabbos. You're being paid after Shabbos. You're not touching any money. What's the problem? The whole thing is gezer shum mekach memka, and therefore b'mokum mitzvah lo gozru be'rabonim. When we call mokum, eina roya siman bracha. He won't see a siman bracha from this. If you look at 19, very interestingly, what does that mean exactly? You won't see a siman bracha. So he says, "But bir inyan ein roisim and bracha kosav le'el legabe oisim melacha be'erev Shabbos min amincha lemala she'ein roisim and bracha melacha v'afim yaviach mimenu yafsid makom acher." You think you're going to gain something over here, you'll make a loss elsewhere. That's the normal way of understanding siman bracha. But then he adds something very, very interesting. He says, "Huva be'elef mogen kosav b'shem sefer ma'irei ar." That only applies to a wealthy person. That he's doing a business deal and that particular deal won't work out. People, most people who need to, they need to earn something, and especially people in these professions, Chazan or something like that, where we're not talking about wealthy people, that it's Rachim, Asher benafshem yovi lachmam, it's hand to mouth. Einam tzrichim lesimen bracha. We're not talking about simen bracha for them. Ela rak laspia is ravoinam. It's to put bread on the table, and therefore
the wealthy chazan shouldn't take einam.
Well, he won't see a simen bracha from it. Yeah, but we'll see in a second what the halacha l'maisa is. Let's just carry on. Continuing chof base in the Mishnah Berurah of v'chol zeh hu adin. Liskar Takea, the same is true for a Baal Takea on Rosh Hashanah. And we can't mock him also Liskar Chazan Takea, but Shabbos V'yont of Gufa. You can't contract him on Shabbos itself, make sit down with him and do the deal on Shabbos. Rak me Erev Shabbos. You should obviously do that on Erev Shabbos. Now, so what should you do? So the Ramah says you should have him sacher l'shana l'chodesh l'kula al mashari. Then both opinions, even if you've got a strict opinion and a lenient opinion, if you hire him for a year or for a month, then everyone agrees that's okay. Pirush, says Mishnah Berurah Chaf Daled, sheyispalel gam b'moisachol, that he does a bit of the weekday. That's why there is a minhag that the Chazan for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur does the first night slichas. The first night slichas is always going to be Motzei Shabbos. He's always in Chol. So you pay him $1,000, let's say, for performing on the Yom Neroim in that year. But included in that is the first night slichas, and therefore you've got the Moshe Chol thrown in. That's the whole way. That's the clever way of doing it. Then the Maisa we are makel to hire him just for a Shabbos, even though it only involves Shabbos performance. And if you're chayshish for those who are stricter, then don't stipulate the amounts in the outset. And then when you give him the money, just say, here's a gift for you. It's a derech matana, and it's not proper payment for work for services rendered. And a woman who's who's a midwife who's giving birth, she should certainly be allowed to receive schar Shabbos. So two interesting footnotes here, 20 and 21. 20, ule'inyan lekicha schar avu tfilas hashatz b'Rosh Hashanah, das hagon Rosh Hashanah Orach, sheloi maspik sheyashatz b'tfilas mincha shel chol. It's got to be a bit chunkier to throw in a bit of chol. It can't be the mincha and erev Rosh Hashanah, because that's is not substantial enough. Ma'ariv Motzi and Kippur, yeah. So, but first night slichas, that's already substantial. Shari ein nog litein schar b'avuzeh. You don't normally pay for someone to daven mincha on Erev Shabbos or Ma'ariv Motzi and Kippur. El tzarich sheyeh shatz af b'slichas v'chule, like I said. Okay, because then it's properly sheyeh choshev b'havla. Now 21. What was this going on? 21. Oh yeah, the mialedes, yeah. Sorry, just la halacha lemaisa. Sorry, number 18, I missed out. If you look at 18, he says lemaisa kosav agonim b'yashuv she hanoita schar avur hartzov teiranis b'Shabbos. If you get paid for a Torah type of profession, a chazan, a baltakeya, a rav, or whatever, even though ideally you should try and arrange it, you get in a kosher way, i.e. involve a bit of chol or do it derech matana. Nevertheless, dahainu b'havla mikol mokum b'di'eved im lo yasukein b'di'eved. If you didn't do it, yesh lismech al adei ashnis hamuvos b'shulchan aruch. You can be somech on the second opinion of the shulchan aruch, because there are two opinions. The first opinion says also to hire a chazan or something for Shabbos. The second says v'yesh mishe matir, because we're not going to derech mitzvah for mitzvah. And you should try and do it by havla. But says Rabbi Yashav, push comes to Shav, if you couldn't or didn't do it, then it's mutter to take it. Let's just finish off. 21. Over tam hadova, why are we matir with a mialedes? B'shal shuvas mari bruna huva b'mincha Shabbos. She'im lo yinashalim lo. If you don't pay this lady to help a woman give birth, timona melialed oitzatzel, she'll hold back in future. V'yesh lachsho shem yagia hadova l'dei pikuach nefesh. And if she's reluctant to come on a future occasion, it could be a shayla pikuach nefesh. Mishum kach yecholehi aflit first charav beistin. She can even actually claim a thing in beistin, and this is amazing. U'matam zeh huva b'shem hagon, the stipler of Kanayevsky, she'af im ein harofe wrote a little schar Shabbos. Even if the doctor doesn't want to take it, Yesh lishtad b'chol derech l'shalom. You got to make sure you insist on it to pay him. V'haderech hamuvcheres hi sheyitin b'teres matona. Ideally, do it in matona. Or b'yeshim lo yikabel schar. Yitochim v'imonim l'hatzav b'pamach habo v'yagia hadov l'pikuach nefesh. And therefore, it could be a shayla pikuach nefesh. So you got to make sure that you insist on it. So that's the bottom line. So people who are involved in spiritual pursuits, whether it's a chazan or whatever, yesh oisrim v'yesh matirim. The minig is matir, like we said, but if you can, to try and do it b'havla, or to do it derech matana or something like that. Okay.